Hello. It's the festive season or the silly season for some, and a lot has been happening in the world, especially down under, which we're going to talk about today. Yesterday, a group of us got together at Bondi Beach to celebrate peace and unity, peace on the beach, which was sublime and incredible. But I have to say, the Australian community or the Sydney community have rallied around the Bondi tragedy. And we're going to discuss that today for the first 20 minutes or half an hour of the show. And then we're going to go over some of the magnificent and amazing guests we've spoken to on ATP Media this year. So stay tuned. It's going to be a beautiful and emotional show.
You got to accentuate the positive. I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Seasons, greetings to you all. Happy holidays, happy festive season. I like to be generic about this stuff. We can say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all those other religious things that we celebrate here on Earth. But yeah, it's the season, it's the end of the year, and we're celebrating life. And boy, has a lot happened. Look, StreamYard have added these. What do you think? These these festive things. Think I should use them? How about that one? That one's pretty cool for the silly season. But yeah, it's the silly season down under. Thought I'd show you an Australian reindeer, make you laugh. For those that are watching on video, you have to see the video to see what I'm showing you. Wow, a lot has been happening, as I say, down under with the event of Bondi just over a week ago, Sunday, which is Sunday in the Northern Hemisphere. It's Monday here in Australia, but it was a week ago yesterday for us where the tragedies happened in Bondi. Hello, Sherry. I'm just saying hello to the gorgeous people online. Merry Christmas to you, darling one. And Vladdy said he's going to bravely pop on and speak about what he learnt from the shows this year. He says he's very unqualified, but I'm sure he's not. And there's the gorgeous Shirley. Hello, I shall return in about 15 minutes. Fabulous year. Yeah, well, fabulous. It's been an intense year. 2025, universally, numerologically, a year 9. And 9 stands for, I'm probably going to cry throughout this whole show today because I'm so emotional. 9 stands for evolution, change, humanity, unity. But evolution and change seem to be the themes that get most people. And of course, many of you heard that it was Monday when I heard about it, last Monday, Sunday in the States again. I woke up to the news of Bondi and was very emotional last show, but I had the gorgeous Vinnie Tolman on the show, who had a near-death experience. And as we were facing mass murder down here in Australia, which is a global event because we're all human. We all come from one race, right? The human race. So if it happens to one of us, it happens to all of us. And he addressed the energy of the tragedy of death so beautifully, so poignantly, with such enlightenment on the show last week as we spoke about his near-death experience and what he learned from Drake, his spirit guide on the other side. Incredible show. I think probably one of my favorite shows this year. I don't know if it's because of the intensity of the day, of what I was feeling, but Vinny just addressed the energy of tragedy so beautifully with his story and his incredible teachings. So, sorry, I'm just looking. There's Thirsty. Yeah, Thirsty. Sorry, they're just talking amongst themselves on the chat group there. So I'm solo today and monitoring the chat as well as speaking to you all and channeling as you do. I just turned off the fan. Whew, it's hot. So it's a nice cool day in Sydney today, but it was sweltering hot while you're freezing on the other side of the world. Down here, down under, I don't know about New Zealand and the rest of the Southern Hemisphere, but sweltering. Today's a nice cool day, but The house that I live in is double brick, so a couple of days of sweltering heat has heated up the house like an oven. So I'm sitting in an oven. I actually just turned off the fan before because I thought it was too distracting to have the fan on, but I wish I'd kept it on. I might turn it back on. Hello, Emily. How are you? Are you freezing? You've got a cold voice here. And finally here, reception. Hey, Alison. Oops, picked the wrong one. And there's Diane. Hi, Diane. Hi, how are you? Yeah, so I wanted to, cold, ha, ha, ha. So, yeah, you're freezing over there. We're sweltering down under. I wanted to address what has happened. As the tragedy unfolded, as I said, we addressed the energy of tragedy and death on the show last week. And my guides had said to me when I was in my 30s and I'm screaming out to the universe, you know, what am I here to do? Why am I here? What is the message that I'm here to bring? It's all very well me being on my spiritual journey and me learning a lot of things about life, love, and the universe. But as a teacher, as a healer, what am I here to speak about? As this curious person, I speak about everything. But this is what they said to me. I asked, what causes the most pain on planet Earth, the most suffering in the world? And they said to me, it is your idea of death that causes the most suffering in your realm, on your planet, in your existence. When you understand death differently, you won't suffer as much. And of course, this is what's been happening when tragedy like this happens. Tragedy seems to strike all the time, doesn't it? We're always talking about one tragedy or another on the show. The shootings, the stabbings, the assassination attempts, you know, the school shootings. Someone was arguing with me on Facebook saying that in order to stop this, we need to have more guns. And I thought he was an Australian, but he turns out to be an American guy. And he's one of those truth seekers, you know, against the government and against this and against that, which is fine. There's a lot to be against. But I said, what are you going to do? Give everybody a weapon and tell them to shoot everybody that they disagree with? If you disagree with the government, if you disagree with shooters, even if you were armed and you were faced with two men with rifles shooting at your crowd, would you pull out your weapon and run towards them and shoot them? I don't know about that. I don't think having more guns is the answer. The answer is actually having more love, because the thing that evokes this sort of violence is hate and the idea that we are separate in some way, which is an idea that we explore while here in this third dimension on planet Earth. We explore the illusion of separation. When you understand your soul, when you understand your higher self, when you understand who you are as a spiritual being having a human experience, you understand that we all come from the same source and that in fact we are unified. So here in the spiritual community down under, and I suspect across the world, we've been harping on this for years, right? And the news keeps presenting us with more hate, more separation, more violence, more drama. And the spiritual community is all peace, love, and light. Let's get together and love each other. Let's get together and love each other. But through this tragedy that's happened here in Australia, Sydney has rallied. This is going to make me cry. Sydney has rallied. I have never seen in my whole life. My guides, what are you saying here, Sherry? So, my guides tell me it's love, only love, that changes everything. Yeah. G'day, Michelle, Mish. I was in the horse paddock yesterday. Good on you, darling, Alison says. So, where was I? I lost my train of thought looking at the comments. When tragedy happens like this, when any tragedy happens, deep within us, those deep desires for better, for more connection, for more humanity, for more peace, for more love, for more unity, they become even more intense. But also it can evoke more hatred and more violence. And you meet violence with violence, as Gandhi said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. So what I've seen across, because I've been obsessed with the news, watching everything that's going on, not everything, I can't watch everything, but watching the conscious community, watching the mainstream community, and the two have merged. The mainstream community, religious communities, secular communities, people that aren't into any religion, conscious communities, have come together in celebration of unity and celebration of the unity of diversity. after this tragedy's happened. I've never seen anything like it in Sydney or in Australia ever before. Still going to get emotional as I talk about this. So we have met this tragedy with mostly peace. Of course, there are people who have lost loved ones who are devastated. A friend of mine, I was on the beach yesterday, Bondi Beach, with a group of beautiful, conscious hippies, conscious people, and we were doing peace on the beach. They made this big peace sign, and we did meditation and singing and talks and drumming, and we ended up with a celebration, drumming. And my friend next to me, a Jewish friend, said that one of the rabbis who was murdered, his wife is absolutely devastated. So of course there's that. There is devastation, and there is heartache, and there is anger. But predominantly the response to this has been more love, more peace, more unity, more connection, more understanding. It's been incredible. Honestly, it's just been incredible. So why does it take tragedy like this to bring us together? I guess that's the nature of the third dimensional experience. It is definitely an answer to many people's prayers, because there's been this undercurrent. When I say undercurrent, a lot of my friends who are of the Jewish faith have been talking about the anti-Semitism that has been rumbling through Sydney, through where I live, but probably across the world. Not really reported on the news, not really reported. What's been reported on the news is a lot of people all over the world, big protests coming out to protest what's been happening to Palestine, in the war. And so this event has changed that exponentially, has absolutely changed that. Why does it take 15 people to die for this to happen? I want to share something with you, which a friend of mine told me not to share publicly. But should I share it publicly? I'm going to share it publicly. So as the human me tries to grapple with this sort of thing, this sort of understanding, like, how can somebody think like that, can think that taking a gun and shooting people is a good thing? Because usually people don't do things unless they think they're right. They absolutely think they're right. And one of my friends was telling me about a year or so ago that that particular organization, I won't even call it religious or faith, believe that the more Jewish people you kill, the more accolades you'll have in heaven. They've got a whole story about it. And actually they're doing good because they're killing people of a faith they disagree with. Like, I don't understand that. I just don't understand that. I had Garnet Schulhauser on the show many times, but one of the times we discussed, so he's somebody that is taken around the cosmos by his spirit guide, and he's shown many things, and he's given the ability to remember it so he can write it down and put it in his book. And he did have a conversation with a terrorist who had been killed doing some terrorist act across the world, and he asked him, why did you do it? Like, why did you want to kill all those people? And he said, I was completely indoctrinated from a young boy that this was the best thing to do. I didn't do it because I thought it was the wrong thing to do. I did it because I thought it was a good thing to do. So this is the mindset. And they also believe that the rewards they get, because you go into this sort of thing knowing you're not going to come out alive and you're willing to die for what you believe in. So you believe that you're going to a place where you will be celebrated for what you've done, some sort of heaven, some sort of realm. I don't know the story. I don't know what there's, what prize they're given, but the accolades. And so I'm talking to my guides from my human perspective. I don't understand this. Where has one of the gunmen is alive and one of the gunmen is dead? So the one that's alive's really pissed off because he expected to die and go to heaven and get his rewards, but he's still alive, which I think is interesting. But his father is dead. So I'm asking, where is he? Like, is he in his heaven of his own creation, getting the accolades that he thought he would get? And I saw really, really vividly, I don't know if I can say this without crying. What are you saying, Mish? I would like to know how our government has let it come this. So yeah, a lot of people angry at the government. A lot of people angry at the government. A lot of my friends angry at the government. So I got this vision when I said, where are you? Are you in your heaven of your own creation? Like, I wanted to see what he was experiencing on the other side. And I saw this really clear image of him standing there holding the hand of a little girl, a little 10-year-old girl, a little Jewish girl called Matilda, who was killed, and the two of them holding hands and smiling. And the message was, there is no hate in heaven. Hate doesn't exist in heaven. And when I shared this image, this visualization, this download, whatever you want to call it, this answering to my query, where are you, what's happening? People said, no, people won't be able to understand that. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Because it was so clear that I wanted to go on AI and make an image of it, of the two of them standing together hand in hand. But the people that are angry on both sides will not get that. You know, they want to stay in separation. But as I say, the overwhelming response to this tragedy has been more peace, more light, more unity. It has brought people. I want to share this with you. Let me see if I can share my screen. There was a huge event in Bondi last night to celebrate the last night of Hanukkah, the Festival of Light. And I think over 5,000 people went. And now let me see if I'll get this right. Let me think. It was, here we go. See if I can share this. Let's see, are you all seeing this? It's just one of the songs that was being played. There we go. Let me play this song. And as a group of people were up.
I'm a teller of stories. I'm a singer of songs. I am Albert Namatjira, and I paint the ghostly guns. I'm Clancy on his horse. I'm Ned Kelly on the bird. I'm the one who sang Matilda. We are Australia. I'm the husband from the desert. I'm the black soil of the plains. I'm the mountains and the valleys. I'm the droughts and flooding rain. I am the rock, I am the sky, the rivers when they run, the spirit of this great land. I am Australia. We are one. Sing it. But we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream, and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australia.
Yeah, so that was something that happened last night on stage down at Bondi. And, you know, the idea of places like the United States of America and Australia was to bring people from all faiths, all cultures, all ideologies, all religions together in one land to live united and in unity. That was the idea of creating this world from the spiritual perspective. Neil Donald Walsh, channeled from who he calls God in the Conversation with God books, he speaks extensively about that in relation to the United States of America, to bring people from all over the world together, from many faiths and many societies, to live in unity. It was an experiment. Can we unify through diversity as we move, as we ascend, as we evolve as a human race? And sometimes we can and sometimes we can't, but that's the challenge that we're up for. What's Mish saying here? Yeah, it said, Mish says that Mish is an Australian, lots of people angry at our government, and she's saying here, I have trouble with the only young child to be involved, and her name was Matilda. I don't know, it's too much. Like, what are the odds of that, honestly? Yeah, her parents were saying they were recent immigrants to Australia, and she was born here. She was the first one born here, and they wanted to give her the most Australian name, so they named her Matilda. And when I tuned into her on the other side, Mish, this is hard for people to understand, but her soul, not her personality or her ego identity or human identity, but her soul knew that this was the part of the role that she would play on planet Earth to actually bring people together in more love and unity as she exited this world, and many people would take note of that it would, being a child, it would cause more impact because, you know, we think that she had her whole life ahead of her. It's a bigger tragedy to us from our human perspective. And so it gains more attention. And again, I'm going back to Garnet, who was on the show this year. Again, he said that he was done doing podcast shows because he's done like hundreds of them and he's over it. But he said, oh, because I've been on your show so many times, Karen, I'll come back, which was cool. But I put in my book a similar tragedy where a child was brutally raped and murdered. It was a true story. And Garnet, in his spirit form from the other side, went to see the psychic reading that the parents went to in order to reach out to her to try and understand what had happened. And it was one of the most profound stories I've ever heard. One, that he was experiencing a psychic reading from the other side, from the other realm, from the realm where their spirits, you know, hang out, who we are when we're not in body. And to see how that, you know, how that happens, to see the mechanics of that, to see the desire of the parents reaching out and not being able to experience the communication being given to them, and then watching the psychic relay the messages to spirit and the spirit relay the messages back to the psychic, and then the psychic's interpretation of the messages. It was just also fascinating. But she wanted to know, the parents wanted to know why it happened. And the little girl had said, before you came to Earth, you had an agreement, a spiritual agreement, a spiritual contract, sacred contract, whatever you want to call it, an agreement that you wanted to experience a loss and you wanted to know what it was like to stay committed to each other through a tragedy, and that you had planned this before you came. And your challenge is, can you stay together after this tragedy happened? Because when tragedy happens, a whole lot of stuff comes up. All sorts of emotions come up about who we are, about who we want to be, blame, who we want to blame, how much anger we want to stay in, how much drama we want to create in our own lives. How do we meet that tragedy? Do we meet it with understanding? Do we meet it with anger? Do we meet it with, you know, where do we go? This is, again, with Vinny on the show last week. We were talking about this, which I thought was so poignant. He said, in order to evolve, in order to grow, we have to leave home. So home is a place of pure positive energy. Home is a place of unconditional love. And when we're home on the spirit, in the spirit realm, we don't have the choices we have while we're experiencing density. We can't make the choices that we can make here. So when we come into a polarized environment, an environment where opposites are created, tragedy and heaven and hell, right and wrong, light and dark. When we bump up against the darkness or the contrast, we are given the ability to make choices. And that's the challenge we give ourselves as we come to Earth. So how am I going to meet this? Am I going to meet it with anger? Am I going to meet it with violence? Am I going to meet it with love? Am I going to meet it with understanding? Am I going to meet it with at least trying to understand? And like with the story, which is actually in my book, Awakened by Death, the one I'm talking about with Garnet. Let me see, where's my, here we go. There's the book, Awakened by Death, 12 Stories of Transformation Through the Death Experience. The story is, the little girl who tragically died in that story. The parents were given this opportunity to make choices about how they were going to meet it. And interesting enough, they were pretty agnostic. They weren't religious people or spiritual people. And they were the sort of people, secular people, who thought anything psychic was people trying to rip you off. It's all woo-woo, it's crazy, it's nonsense. That was the sort of mindset they had before the tragedy. And of course, after the tragedy, the husband had organized the psychic reading because the wife was so devastated and he just didn't know what to do to help her. And he thought that might help. And indeed it did. So wonderful book. Thanks, Sherry. Yeah, it is a wonderful book. Love your show with Vinny. Yeah, Carrie. I did too. I really did. I loved that show with Vinny. So, yeah, I asked a few people. Who's here? I asked a few people from Sydney to pop online to share their experience of what's been happening in Sydney. But I have to say, it was all very last minute this morning here in Australia. Lots going on. It's the silly season. It's the festive season. Lots of people are busy doing things. But there have been just like yesterday when I was with some of the gorgeous conscious peeps on Bondi Beach, singing and dancing and praying and meditating and evoking peace on the beach. There have been gatherings like that all over Sydney and maybe all over Australia and maybe even all over the world. I don't know. I haven't got my eye on everything, but a lot in Sydney. There was a big event in Manly last night. Manly is another beach in Sydney, which is on the other side of the harbour. For people who want to know, Sydney's a very big place. And my friend Mark, who plays the Adaki, which you would understand, you would know as the didgeridoo. The original people of Australia don't call it the didgeridoo, they call it the Adaki. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. And they had smoking ceremonies. But even at Bondi Beach yesterday, there were several things happening. We were sitting on the beach, creating peace, and over where the memorial was, where all the flowers are, there was another smoking ceremony going on. And as I left the beach, I have to say, Bondi Beach turned on its sparkling paradise yesterday. The water was crystal clean. I'm going to say that to all these people, all you people in the Northern Hemisphere freezing. I'm going to remind you of what a beach is like. Crystal clear rolling waves, gentle rolling waves, crystal clear aqua water. Honestly, you could be in any paradise on earth. It just turned on. It just turned on its sparkling perfectionness yesterday as we were celebrating on the beach, and we all ran into the water and enjoyed the beautiful water on Bondi Beach. And Bondi is a place I grew up in as a kid. My family used to take me down there as a kid, down to Bondi Beach. It is a place where people enjoy life, really, and it is a place, most well-known beach in Australia, where people come from all over the world. In fact, when you walk down, it's a bit like Coogee, the beach I live in, which is sort of next door to Bondi. When you walk down the street, you never hear an Australian accent. Everyone has a European accent, an English accent, accents from all over the world. We are a very multicultural country, and that's the point of Australia and America, to have many voices coming together and living as one. So what are you all saying here? There's Sun. Hey, Sun, how are you? It's the season to be silly. Fa la 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 la. Amish, I'm glad you're in the silly season. So I wanted to go over some of the amazing people we've had on ATP this year. Let me share this page instead. Let me see if that's coming up. Do I have to add it to my page? Add to stage. You have to add it to the stage. There we go. So this is from my website for people watching. And as you know, this is the show that we're doing now with all these beautiful faces. The last show we did with Vinny, 10 Things You Must Know. Let me tell you about that show. So sometimes because I have to put up an image for the shows before I speak to people, I've got to think about, the heading, what it's going to be, because this is a live show on the United Public Radio networks. And before, when I used to tape the shows, I would have a conversation and then I could put a title for the show knowing what we talked about. But 10 Things You Must Know with Vinny from his Chilling NDE. And right at the end of that show, we go through the 10 things. He does explain some of the 10 things in detail during the conversation, but we don't actually say, hey, this is one of the 10 things. He just talks about his story and he explains one of the 10 things. And it is beautiful. If you want to know the 10 things, in sequence, go to the end of the show. He talks about the 10 things. So who before that we had Remembering My Life as an ET. It's been a very, very galactic year. I'd love to know what your favorite shows have been this year for people that are online, or even if you're watching this after the live, let me know in the comments what you learned and what has been your favorite guests. I have to say, there've been some real standouts. Everyone is a standout. People often say, who's been your favorite guest? And I always reply that just the last one I spoke to was always my favorite guest, because I'm always in the whole energy of who they are and what they do and how they're helping the world and, remembering their story. But some of them have been absolute standouts for me this year. I loved Jennifer, who was the last show we did before Vinny. So she came on twice. I loved her so much I put her on twice because she came on to speak about the ET embassy that's going to be built with Sylvain. When I say with Sylvain was on the show. So there is millions of dollars that have been raised and communities all over the world that are involved in creating a physical embassy to meet our cosmic neighbors. It's very exciting. And every time I ask Sylvain, what's the date? Because they've got the money, they've got the resources, they've got the passion and the enthusiasm to do it, but they have to have a government agree. They have to have some sort of government. They can't just plonk it in a country. It has to be in line with what the government wants. So the holdup has always been the government, politics is always the holdup. Yeah, anyway, so we don't know what country it's going to be in. He has said that there's a country that has reached out and their government have agreed to do it. He didn't say which one, but he said the estimated time of completion is 2030. So that's interesting. And anyway, Jennifer came back on the show to share her memories of a life on another planet that went through the wars, the Lyran Wars, and exploded. And many of you online seem to have memories of this. And I was talking to her about, gosh, this story that you remember, it seems to be very similar to Avatar. One could say he was a skeptic. Oh, you're just repeating the story of Avatar. But when you get a download, it's not like memories of a movie you've watched. It's just not. For those who don't know, when you get a download, it's so real. It's so absolutely real. And I was watching on Instagram the other day a young man saying that James Cameron, who produced the movie Avatar, said that he actually got the story from dreams. And so he was receiving the download, but he was receiving them from downloads in dreams, and that it is actually a true story. So as Jennifer was relaying her memories, that it was very similar to the movie Avatar. I think the fourth one, I don't know, it's coming out during the Christmas season. And I had the beautiful Cara Goodman on, who has her own show, Soul Elevation and Ascension. And we also had Heather Eck, who talked about synesthesia. Oh, I forgot about Tanis. Synesthesia, seeing the unseen. That was really interesting because we spoke about synesthesia as just another part of our psychic abilities. Judith Collins and Desda. Yeah. So Mish says her favourites were Judith Collins and Desda. Yeah, I love them too. Absolutely. I love them too. I actually have had Desda on the show probably over a year ago or a couple of years ago, and I had her back. I had a lot of my favourites back on the show this year. Since I've been on the United Public Radio Networks and the UFO Paranormal Radio Networks, I don't know if I've done a station ID, just done it on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio. Since we've been doing the live syndicated radio shows, I've got a new audience, the people that are listening through the syndication that are not necessarily online. So I've put a lot of my favourites back on the show because we've got a new audience. And according to Michelle, we're reaching about 750 live listeners through the syndicated radio shows. So I don't know who you all are out there, but I'd love to hear from you because I never hear and I never get an email from anybody saying I'm listening through the syndicated radio shows. I'd really love to know who you are. So thanks for tuning in. And there's Vladdy, he's come online. And who else have we got? Tanis is just one of my favourite people, Tanis Helliwell. She's written so many books. We went over a few of them on the show in the last couple of weeks, a few weeks ago. But she's written a book, an autobiography of her life, My Life as a Mystic. And I just loved having that conversation with Tanis. Just beautiful. She's one of the most beautiful, gorgeous people. There are some people who really walk the talk. There are some people that do the talking, but not necessarily the walking. And there are some people who really, really walk the talk. I tell you who was another one of those. And you know how I know? The people who really walk the talk are the people that actually say, well, who are you and what do you do? They reach out to me and ask me about who I am because I'm also a spiritual teacher with my own adventures, but I showcase other spiritual teachers. But a lot of people come on and they're like, oh, she wants to talk to me. It's all about me. It's all about my story. And they just see me as the interviewer. But with a lot of conscious podcast shows, The people that are on the other, the interviewers are some of the most amazing people you'll ever meet. And they have the calling to spread the message. Part of Susie Hanson's 3 waves of volunteers are the communicators. So not necessarily the people that put on podcast shows, but they're part of that. They're part of that energy. But the communicators are those people who have had alien encounters, abductions, near-death experiences. They've had spiritually transformative experiences, and if they keep it to themselves, the world is never going to hear about it. So they are brave enough to come out with their story and share their story, and she called those the communicators. They're the first wave, which is still coming in, by the way. It's not like a wave, it has a finite time. It comes in waves, but still comes in. Were the light workers, the healers, the teachers, the indigos, whatever you want to call it. And then the second wave were the communicators, so the people that are speaking about their stories. And then the third wave, according to Susie Hanson, I know Dolores Cannon put this information out because she also got it from her hypnotherapy clients, but Susie had this download from her ET family, her ET friends, in much more detail. Susie Hanson is a New Zealand experiencer. So the third wave were the people that would never talk about this stuff. They would silently have the knowing of all that we talk about. They would get into mainstream jobs in science, in technology, in politics, in healing, and they would be inside the systems, and from their high level of consciousness be changing the world or changing the systems through their own genius, if you like. But they wouldn't be people necessarily talking about ETs or meditation or spirit guides or afterlife or consciousness, or they would just look like very normal people, but they would have a very heightened consciousness, and they could see what needed changed and they would change it. And I've often spotted these people in different things that I've watched. It's really amazing, in the movie industry as well. Hey, what do you all think about the new Steven Spielberg movie that's coming out next year called To the Day of Disclosure? Everyone's talking about that. That looks pretty fabulous. Sherry said, so I'm just looking at the comments here. What are you saying here, Sherry? Judith Collins and Desda. And Sherry says, I love Tanis and her connection to the animals and elements. Yeah, me too. And Alison, I actually go to Tanis's story then and read it. Oh, you did. And Sherry says Tanis and this keyboard. Oh, okay. Didn't need to put that up. So where was I? Oh, I forgot my train of thought. It's actually hard to watch the comments and have the train of thought. So, Vladdy, you haven't got your camera on. Do you want to come on and chat about what you learnt on the shows this year? You up for it? Let me add you to the stage. Let me just remove that. This is Vladdy, who often you'll hear me, for people listening on radio, you'll often hear me talk about Vladdy because he's always in the chat and he asks the most great questions. And I'm often saying, you'll have to start your own podcast show because you will ask great questions. Welcome, Vladdy. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Vladdy's a young man. I say young. He probably doesn't think he's so young. You're like late 20s now, but to me, he's young. Living in Germany, so it's past midnight for Vladdy. I don't know, it's probably 1 o'clock in the morning. He stays up late to listen to the shows, and he's always asking a lot of questions. Have you got any favourites from this year, Vladdy? Any favourite teachers? Let me add this back to
the good with names, so I don't really have that many names in my head, but I love when way people talked about communication with animals or communication with dragons. I felt deep resonation within me about that, and also that you had Kai Dickens on the show was pretty cool as well, that she could share her story as well.
Who was that we had who on the show?
Kai Dickens.
Oh, Kai, yeah. Yeah, let me tell you about Kai. So I had Kai on the show. I reached out to her maybe at the end of last year or at the beginning of this year, maybe at the end of last year, I think. I reached out to Kai, who is the creator of the Telepathy Tapes, which is a podcast that went viral this year, and asked her to come on the show. Told her I was in Australia. She was so excited. She said, I'd love to talk to Australians. And I said, well, yeah, we've got some Australians that watch the show, listen to the show, but I don't know how many. I think maybe more people in the States listen, or Canada or Europe. I don't know. But anyway. And that was right when her show exploded. And then she must have got a million other people asking her to come on the really big podcast shows. She went on Joe Rogan. She went on News Nation. She went on Jess Michaels. She went on everything, didn't she, Laddie? She's just been on everything. And so she pushed me inside. I got just pushed aside. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm not one of the big guns. I just get pushed aside. I'll just wait until that calms down and then I'll reach out to her again, which is what I did, which probably took about 6 months for me to get back to her. And things had calmed down as far as interviews, people reaching out for her to do interviews. And then we had Kai on the show. But I don't think she had spoken to somebody like me who has the same abilities as the kids that she's talking to. And not as powerfully, I have to say, but who is psychic and telepathic and can speak to the other side and channel, exalted wisdoms from higher guidance and all that sort of thing. The kids just blew me away. What about you, Vladdy? Did you listen to the telepathy tapes?
Yes, I listened to nearly all of them. I haven't
Did
gone
you?
through all the meditation tapes yet, but the rest of it I did. And every time it was very, very heartwarming and very beautiful to know their perspective about the world, about us, and
Yeah.
where we can get better at as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what I felt when that became a viral podcast. It's, like the conversation around psychic abilities and telepathy has not been a mainstream conversation. People like to talk about celebrity, and what do people like to talk about in the mainstream? The news likes to talk about war and drama, and other interview shows talk about acting and celebrity and books and I don't know, normal things. But when a podcast talking about telepathy and kids on the spectrum who are silent, who are viewed as abnormal or retarded, some of the names, spastic, some of the names that people give them. And underneath this shell of they can't control their bodies, they can't verbally communicate, there are these genius, highly evolved spiritual beings who have their own life outside of the third dimensional world. They have their own life in a psychic space, and they all connect and communicate to each other on this psychic space and have absolutely beautiful flowing communication. They laugh and giggle and talk about all the stupid things that we do as humans. And it's incredible. They have their own world, their absolute own world. And to be a part of their world through this podcast show was just beautiful, wasn't it?
Yes, especially when they described how it is for them to be in their bodies, how they try to work with it, and the body simply does not listen to what they want to convey. And
Right.
Especially how their caretakers help them, how it helps them to basically reunite with their bodies and how to be a more active part of the world. In that perspective, was really beautiful to see or to get to know. And especially how much love they hold for
how
everyone.
much love they hold. And on one of the episodes in the first season of the telepathy tapes, one of the young men that we get to know and his family, he dies suddenly in a swimming pool. And what was beautiful was their response. Remember, I said at the beginning of this, it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to it, which is our spiritual learning here on earth. And when tragedy hits, how do we respond? Like, what choices do we make? Do we respond in anger, in frustration, in violence? Do we hate the world? Do we seek answers? Do we seek understanding? Do we understand what the purpose is? Do we speak to our soul? I mean, how do we respond? So even his mother responded to the tragedy of losing her beloved son, who had become famous on the telepathy tapes, and all his wisdom was now known to the world because it went viral. They responded with so much love and understanding at his passing, which was so beautiful to me, because all the dead people I speak to, they are not unhappy that they're dead. And their biggest message is, please do not put yourself through so much suffering because I have exited the matrix. please. And this is what we do. We go, yeah, we won't suffer when someone dies, and then someone dies, and then we suffer, which is what's happening here on Earth, here in Sydney, right? Well, here on Earth, but it happens all the time. But we're given that choice. Are we going to suffer, or are we going to meet it with love and understanding? And for the most part, I have seen so much love and understanding. The Jewish community has come out with so much love, and they're not even wanting to retaliate. Love for the people or the organization or the religion that did this to them. I don't even want to call it a religion, because people of the same religion are not responsible for what a couple of people who have insanity do. Just like the Jewish people are not responsible for the insanity of what their government is doing. And I often think, if my government did something insane, as an Australian, would I be responsible for what my government does? What about you, Vladdy? How do you feel about that?
About how I would feel if the government would do that?
Well, would you feel that it would be right for people to blame Germans if the German government did something terrible? I mean, well, this happened after you're young, and it was before I was born too, but during the Second World War, is it the people's fault for what the government did? Do we blame the people? For the insanity of what other people do that are of the same society.
To be honest, it's a hard question for me to answer, because oftentimes I feel like it's never one individual that is at fault. It's more of all of the individuals who are willing maybe to play along, or to not try to ask themselves first if does it make sense for them? Do they want to be part of it?
Yeah.
It's a tricky question for me.
Yeah. Sherry says here, thanks, darling one. She says here, my favorite is you, Karen. You're so knowledgeable, and your positive attitude is very uplifting. You were the first podcast I listened to when 8 got into this. I think you were supposed to say I got into it. Typo. Yeah, your guidance and your guests have taught me so much. Yeah. Thanks, darling one. Yeah. Kerry says Jean-Paul. What's Emily saying here? Oh, okay, they're chatting amongst themselves. Yeah. So getting back to the shows and what we learned from the shows. I had what's her name on? I'd never shared this before. So Laura Cheadle reached out to me, and she's somebody that talks about relationships, and she spoke about her finding out that her husband had been having 1 million affairs. And again, going back to, it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond or how we meet, or the choices we make in accordance to what happens to us. And that was beautiful, because she was obviously very angry. She's a beautiful looking woman, that her husband would feel that he needed to have lots of affairs with other women. I mean, it can get you very upset. But she actually met it with love and understanding, and they did stay together, and she helped her husband through his demons and his thought forms that had him reaching out all the time, looking for love in all the wrong places. And so that was a beautiful show from Laura. And another surprise was Dr. Gail McLeod, who was a nurse and what else was she? She was some sort of holistic healer for many years and retired. And back in COVID, in only 5 years ago, she had her spiritual awakening. And she is so connected to the galactic community. I called it How I Learned to Fly a Spaceship. And I don't even think we spoke about how she learned to fly a spaceship, because there was so much to speak about from her story. She was one of the most out there guests I've ever had. And yet her spiritual awakening, her consciousness awakening, was only 5 years ago. She was a real surprise. And she was one of the ones where I talked about there are lots of people who do the talking, but there are some that do the walking as well. And she was someone that really wanted to know who I was and what I did. And I loved that about her. She wasn't just about, I'm going to tell my story and everyone's going to know about me. She reached out to me afterwards and like, what do you do? Let me know more about you. And that's a real sign that people are, quite enlightened when they're sort of wanting to know about the people they're talking to. I always say when I ask guests to come on the show, it'd be good to know who you're talking with as you're talking, having a conversation with me on the show. Yeah. So do you remember that show, Vladdy?
Yeah, pretty good.
With Gail?
She was like a galactic nurse, maybe you can call her.
Yeah.
It was really incredible what she was experiencing, and all of her story was really fascinating. I don't know why it reminded me on a situation, or it was said that in the past there was in the Secret Service of the United States of America a woman who was a nurse as well, and she was the only one who could connect to a gray alien that they had caught, and so she was kind of like the translator for them after a while, and she had to teach the gray the English language first to communicate with them, and then started to basically convey all the knowledge that the gray was willing to share with humanity. So I don't know why, but that it reminded me extremely of her. Or when I listen to the show, I find it very fascinating, and that she has all those beautiful abilities that was taken on board, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
And work on other beings, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, she's writing another book.
There's so much to her story.
So much to her story. She's got a lot more. I'll get her back on the show next year. I keep saying I'm going to, stop the shows because I've been doing this for like over 16 years now on media, about 25 years in person and on media. But I'll probably still continue. I'll take about a few weeks off and just do some uploads. I'll upload some repeat shows. But I haven't booked in anybody for next year. I'm just sort of like not thinking about next year. Next year is another year. We're going into universally a year 1. We've been in a year 9, which is about the evolution and change. And have you felt like you've had a lot of change in your life this year, or a lot of disruption to the norm?
I would say it was more like a reflection, because throughout all of the year, everything that I was taking in from the shows and everything that showed up in my life was more about reflection, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Why are you feeling it? Where is it coming from? Is there something to it? Is it beneficial to you? Is it not beneficial? Why could it be beneficial? Like the I am mantra, or like when we find ourselves in a situation which is reoccurring and it's like always the same drama that we keep creating, and then we start asking, why do I create this drama? Is there something for me that is maybe beneficial that I can learn from it, and why would I want to recreate it? And that kind of switched my mind a bit more and helped me understand what is really going on inside my life, and what is going on inside of me, and why it is really important to reflect. Like for myself, it is like a knot in my stomach, an energetic knot that I have when something is going off. And when I try to ask myself some questions in regards to that, every time I get closer to the answer with the question, the knot starts to open up a bit more, and I start to feel lighter. So when I ask the right question and I get my answer, it feels like I'm flying again, that there's no knot, there's no weight in my body, and I feel like I'm on a cloud. And this helps for me a lot to really reflect myself, reflect on what is going on, reflect on why am I reacting to something that strongly. So that was basically for the last half of this year, the theme for my life, and this kind of everything that I found out, the answers in all these shows as well, that every time it came back to the same thing, to basically reflect on everything you're doing, everything you're feeling, everything you're thinking.
So you're using your body as a barometer as a feedback loop, knowing that when you're using the feeling in you, like the knot, when the knot disappears, you know that you've raised your frequency, you've raised your vibration. You're getting a lot of love online. Michelle says, Great to see you here, Gladys. And Shirley says you're a co-host today. Good to see you as a co-host. Yeah, I've often said that Laddie should start his own podcast shows because you ask great questions. Maybe that's something you can start next year, Laddie. You could even just do it. You could do it in German, just for the German, because you'd be much more comfortable just speaking in your own language, wouldn't you? For your anyway, something to think about. Something to think about. But another outstanding guest this year was Judith Collins, who is an Australian aura reader. And I had Judith on a couple of times. I think I had her on last year as well, but I got her on to do mini aura readings. So Judith and I became friends, and she said to me, so I'm just reading the comments, that because we're friends, she doesn't read her friends because she wants to maintain a relationship that's like a friendship and not like a reader client. Anyway, it's not my philosophy, but it's her philosophy. But I put her on the show not knowing what I said. Well, unless you give me a reading, I really don't know sort of how good of a reader you are because I haven't seen you do your thing. And but I was pretty sure I knew what she would be like. But Samuel Chong, who is the one I've had on the show, someone I've had on the show many times, talking about the Thiova Prophecy, which is one of my favorite books of all times. Thiova Prophecy, or Thiova Prophecy, however you want to say it. He wanted, in the book, The Thiova Prophecy, Michel de Marquet, who is the Australian French man, he's a French-Australian man, actually born in France, lived in Australia, who was taken by evolved aliens to their planet. It was first called Abduction to the Ninth Planet, and then it was called the Thiova Prophecy. It was a highly evolved race of beings, and they could all see, everyone could see everybody's auras. They were all psychic. They all spoke telepathically to each other. Really advanced and incredible consciousness technology as well as physical technology. They had this little instrument where they could fly around the place. It put an energy field around them and they could fly like Superman. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Anyway, he wanted to know if somebody on Earth could do what these people on this planet did. So he scoured the internet and he found Judith in Australia, and he actually came to Australia to meet Judith all the way from the States, and he introduced me to Judith. And so when she did her aura readings, she just blew me away, you know, like the level of communication that she has with her consciousness or guide. She doesn't often talk about her spirit guides at all. She just does what she does. And so that blew me away. And then I had the beautiful Brandon Thomas from Expanding Reality podcast on the show, talking about freedom and sovereignty. He was talking about your word as your wand, you know, what you say casts spells. We spoke about how spelling, when we spell things, it has different spells that we create in the way we create our reality. It was a fascinating conversation with Brandon. He's actually gone on to do something brand new. He's just started it. He said to me when I had him on the show, I'll tell you a secret, but you're not to tell anybody. So I kept it under my hat. And he's taken over a show called The Mysterious Universe. It was a podcast show that's been going for over 20 years, two Aussie guys. And I couldn't tune into it. It wasn't my vibe at all because they would often laugh at many things that they considered woo-woo, but they spoke about a lot of woo-woo stuff and mysterious stuff, but they came at it with a very Aussie, skeptical sense of humor, which I couldn't tune into at all. So I said to Brandon, he and his co-host, he's taking over that show because those two guys are moving on to other things. I said, I hope you bring a different vibe to the show. But we'll see. So he's just started that Mysterious Universe, and he's very excited about that. Anybody else that stands out for you, Vladdy, this year?
Judith Collins, because how she described all the auras, how she sees them.
Yeah.
It was really a unique perspective for me because I never heard any descriptions like that. And I think it was her who described. For her, it wasn't about learning how to see the auras. It was more like how to see the person behind it.
Yes,
because
exactly.
She had to look through the aura and had to get used to the process and to let the human behind it appear more, because she was only used to seeing the auras, if I remember correctly. And yeah, the description of the aura, how it's built up, the different colors, the different layers, everything about it was so really educational and beautiful to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Andrew Genevieve is somebody that I met through Brandon, actually. We were on a call together. Brandon, I don't know, got a group of us together and we were chatting about different things. And I just tuned in. On the call, Andrew didn't say anything. He was just really silent. But I tuned into his energy and I'm like, this guy is special. I need to know something more about him. So I put him on the show. He was actually out here in Australia, traveling across Australia, doing breath work and meditation, doing courses with the Australians. And he was just loving life down under. And I think he calls himself Lionheart, I don't know, something. And he spoke about the power of the breath and how the breath is so transformative and how it transformed his life. And that was a beautiful conversation with Andrew. He's such a special person. And of course, I had the Ponte back on the show, Sue Walker and Kevin Estrella. So Sue has been on the show many times talking about the Ponte, who are humanoid greys who actually come from a planet called Pontel, and they've been observing Earth for, I don't know, thousands of years, probably before this current race of humans were on the planet, probably back before Lemuria and Atlantis. I can't remember how long, but they've been here for a long time, not specifically to observe humans as much as to observe the planet herself and the oceans. They're madly in love with our oceans. They said that the oceans on planet Earth are some of the most diverse, pristine, incredible oceans of any planet in the universe. And Kevin has been on the show talking about his connection to the Ponte, and of course Sue, who is in telepathic communication with them. And they have information stations all over the planet, and one in Australia and one in the Sandia Mountains. They called them the Sandia before they knew their name. They used to call them the Sandia because they're in the Sandia Mountains. Let's see. I need to go back and see a lot of people I recognize. I missed that episode. Oh, Emily says. And yeah, did you like that episode, Vladdy, with the Ponte? Because we've had the Ponte on many times.
Yes, I liked it a lot, especially Sue Walker also showed their character. She described like how they are, how they do some fun activity or what they call fun activities for them.
Yeah.
What hobbies they have, what their character traits are, and especially she described one time what their instruments are, because they have like a harp that is made out of coral or something like that, and there's water within it, so when they play it resonates with the water as well, and there comes very unique sound out of it. So it was very beautiful, this show, and that how she described what they like, what they do. Like at times they connect to a flock of birds and try to fly in specific formations and have fun together with the birds because they merge their consciousness and all enjoy the experience.
Yeah, they have so much to teach us. All ETs do. When I say all, a lot of ETs do, especially the ones communicating with planet Earth. They're so much more advanced consciously than we are, and with those telepathic abilities and the ability to manipulate consciousness in ways, deliberately, in ways they want to. And I wonder when disclosure really happens on this planet, how all these ETs are going to come forward and teach us about the power of our consciousness. I talked about Sue Walker when she was a child up on ships. They would have a lot of hybrid children, human children, ET children. They'd have these classrooms and they weren't learning maths. All of them were learning how to navigate their own consciousness and create through thought, through consciousness and thought. All the lessons are about that. And yet here on Earth, are they teaching that in university? No. Are they teaching that in school? No. They're actually saying, not yet, exactly, buddy. In your lifetime, they will. But for the most part, up until now, things are changing. They're saying, it's all crazy and woo-woo and nonsense. But with the advent of the telepathy tapes going viral, I suspect that a lot of mainstream educational systems and people are taking this more seriously. And I think that's something that Kai really wants to put out bring the science into it, so that people don't think it's crazy and woo-woo. What are you saying here? I remember looking that Virginia Drake. Yes, I loved Virginia. Looking that up, Virginia Drake, before what she was, hers about, was it healing? I love hearing NDEs where they learn healing things. Yes. Sorry, I probably missed the first part of her message. I need to go back. Yeah, she's talking about Virginia Drake. But one of the standouts, the absolute standouts for me, was Penelope Smith. Her agent reached out to me and said, if she talks to the animals. And I thought, yeah, no big deal. Lots of people talk to animals. Not that exciting, right? That was my egoic human criticism. And I didn't go with my egoic criticism because I often tell my criticism to shut up when I get critical of people because it doesn't know what the hell it's talking about most of the time. It's still there. It still, haunts me, so to speak. I get critical. But I'm like, shut up, let me just look into this more. And you'd love this. She talked about the dragons, but I loved her. A lot of people put her on to talk about telepathy with animals. And everyone wants to know how to speak to their dog or their cat or their budgie. And it's sort of the level of conversation stays there because that's what people are interested in because she's been doing this forever. But with me, we went into Sasquatch, we went into dragons. She remembered a past life as a Sasquatch that she shared with us. I just thought she was an absolute standout. I absolutely loved this woman, Penelope Smith, talk to the animals. What did you think about it, Vladdy? She talked about dragons. You liked the dragons?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't remember too much.
You don't remember that one? You'll have to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, I know that at the time I enjoyed it a lot. And to be honest, it sounds already amazing. And I wish it would be kind of more common that people can do things like that. Yeah.
Shirley saying here, the show with Vinny was wonderful surprise. Such a tuned-in human and so empathetic. Yeah. You're saying, didn't she channel the kangaroo? No, she didn't channel the kangaroo, although I'm sure she could. But I tell you who did channel the kangaroo. That was the gorgeous, where is she? Lorianne Spagna, who did channel the kangaroo. That was fabulous. Lorianne, I just love Lorianne. She's another standout for me. I shouldn't pick favorites, I know, because they're all standouts. But Lorianne I had a great connection. And I got her on Elevate as well. I'll get Lorianne back on the show. Just loved her. She was channeling different animals. And because here in Australia, we have kangaroo meat, which people love. I've never had it because I don't eat meat. My daughter has eaten it. It's kind of gamey. It's tougher. It's for people that do eat meat, apparently it's more healthy. It doesn't have as much fat in it. But in the pet industry, I buy meat for my pet. For a vegan to buy meat, it's interesting. I go to the supermarket where all the meat is and buy it to give to my cat. I said, ask the kangaroos if they like being, meat for animals, being food. And she said, not really. And in the chat today, in our Inner Sanctum chat, Russell was saying that he showed a little video to us all with pets running to the aids of humans. And he's saying, I'm finding it really hard to eat lamb these days because they're so cute. I know there's at some point. Do you still eat meat, Vladdy? Probably do.
Yeah, I do, but mostly because it's unfortunately the cheaper way to go. I don't really have currently the finances to go purely vegan or vegetarian. I tried it once, and to be honest,
it's actually cheaper to be a vegetarian. I hate to tell you, but especially if you're ordering in restaurants and stuff. Leslie says Penelope was one of her favorites, and Laurie, Laurie Spagna. Didn't she channel the kangaroo? Yeah. But I've never been able. My sister-in-law, who's a good Catholic, I've often spoken about her on the show, would invite me over for Sunday lunch or Sunday dinner or many times in the past, not anymore, they've moved out of the city. And she would always put on a lamb roast. And every time I would go, I'd say, I don't eat this. And she'd go, oh, yeah, forgot. It's like every single time she forgot. 30 years of me telling her I didn't eat meat and she forgot every time. It's so interesting. But, eating lambs, eating somebody's child is something that, you got to seriously think about that one. Somebody gives birth to a baby and then that baby's taken away and chopped up and put on the dinner table. Anyway, I don't even buy lamb for my cat. I can't. No, I won't do it. And after Laurie's conversation, I did stop buying kangaroo for the cat as well.
That reminds me
Anyway.
of something. Like, I don't know where I heard this conversation, but basically they were communicating with cows and how they're being treated, and they've been slaughtered, and they said it wouldn't be as much of a deal if you would at least treat us with love till the end.
Exactly.
From the beginning till the end. If that is the case, that it isn't a big deal that they have to offer their bodies for us. But that's basically with every animal. If you treat them with love and respect and care, it is less of a harm for them to give their body that's for us to eat, basically, than just the way we currently do.
Like we discussed with Vinny, it's not the dying thing that is so traumatic, because we're all going to die at some point. And before we come, we know we're going to die. And before animals come, who are a part of the meat industry, chickens, cows, they know that they're going to be a part of that industry. So they do make an agreement to be a part of that industry before they come in, the soul comes into the body of a cow or a chicken. But you're right, Vladdy. It's like, just because you're a part of a food industry doesn't mean you need to be treated badly, like the cruelty aspect of it. I don't think they mind dying, because they understand the eternal nature of the soul. They understand that better than humans do. We get so upset because we think it's the end of us, for people that don't understand the eternal nature of the soul. But animals do understand the eternal nature of their soul. But it's the way, it's the way they're killed and the way they're treated that they're not that up for. You know, they, as a soul that is experiencing that sort of density, I guess they know that they'll experience that. But their message is, just like you say, Bloody, treat us with more loving kindness and compassion, even if you're going to eat us. Yeah. But, the reason I call myself a vegan, because I do eat things that vegans don't eat, so it's mostly vegan, is not so much that, because animals are killed, because, again, they understand that they're going to die and they're going to be a part of the meat industry. It's the sustainable aspect. We just can't feed a population of 9 billion people meat the way that it is, being made today. It's just not sustainable for this planet, unless half the planet leave, but it's not a sustainable practice. There's in the movie Cowspiracy, it talks about the resources that goes into having a hamburger versus a salad, and it's like 1,000 times more resources to put a slab of meat on your plate than it is to put some vegetables on your plate. So much water and grain, all the grain that's grown to feed the animals, and all the water and the space of the planet that you need to put the animals. And it's so interesting, so much statistics. It was that movie that actually made me change my mind about eating any sort of meat, really.
I feel like it's another rant that could go on for hours, even with the plants that they grow, like how they treat the soil and everything else. So I feel like
there is hydroponics. I was watching a show about a person who went to a show or something. Gosh, my memory. And they were talking, no, it was on a spaceship. Was it on a spaceship? But anyway, they had hydroponics, they had plants growing hydroponically on the spaceship. So, and they had them stacked. And so and we can do this on Earth too. It takes very little resources to grow them and very little space as well. There are ways that we can, it is another system that needs changing. So I guess, and another standout for me after Pet was Desda Zuckerman. So I had Desda on the show before, and we spoke about your sacred anatomy. But Desda, and I brought her back because she was one of my favorites, brought her back this year. She went into the structure of the human aura and the structure of the energy bodies, the soul's energy body, in such a way that she hadn't done on my show before. It just absolutely amazed me. I just loved that show with Desda. And I had a bit of an aha moment.
I think that's the show that I actually thought.
Sorry?
I think that's the show that I actually thought about. I confused her with
Judith Collins?
Yeah.
Yeah. We spoke about the aura a few times. Just because agreement was made. All beings can be respected and treated in loving ways. Shirley says, yeah. And Leslie says she can't be a vegetarian because she doesn't eat grains or dairy. That would be difficult. Yeah, so Desda spoke about the electromagnetic body, which includes all the chakras and what that looks like. And that's the energy body that changes as we change when we get sick, when we think negatively, when we think positive. That's a structure that's constantly changing as we change, as we think and feel differently. But she talked about the soul's energy structure, which is a structure that doesn't change, which was really interesting. And as she described it and showed us images of it, it looked like this beautiful opal essence, this incredible, colourful opal essence. And I remember Howard Storm had spoken about his near-death experience. I've had him on the show a couple of times, where he met angels, these massive angels. They presented themselves as energy orbs, but not a little energy orb, as these massive structures of energy. And he said, the closest thing I've ever seen on earth is an opal that looks like them. They were so magnificent. And I remember when I had Howard on the show thinking, yeah, angels look like that, right? They're magnificent beings, you know, elevating an angel to some pedestal. But when Desda was on the show talking about how all our soul energy looks like that, I thought to myself, well, that's exactly what Howard described. It's the same look. So we and angels all look the same when we're not in our physical bodies, right? And why would angels be any more special than who we are as spirit? Yeah, that was an epiphany for me. Any epiphanies for you, Vladdy?
Yeah, it's basically like what I said before, the structure of it, and that there are some layers that are fixed, that do not changed, and some layers that do change constantly with depending on what we currently do believe in and resonate with, basically.
Yeah. I'm going to play station ID. Hopefully I've got the right one.
You're listening to ATP Media, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms.
I think I was just muted.
Yeah, you are muted when that goes on. Yeah, and Vladdy is helping me out today. Vladdy's someone who listens to the shows, always asking great questions in the chat. So I said, do you want to come on and speak about what you learnt from the shows? I asked a few people to come on, but as I say, it was a last-minute thing because I was busy running around doing healings and meditations and Peace on the Beach yesterday. I even fitted in a massage late in the afternoon. I don't think I've had a massage since the beginning of COVID, since 2020. So, yeah, I got that in yesterday. That was a busy day yesterday. Came home and crashed. But it is the season to be merry, jolly, silly season, and we're heading up to Christmas Day, whatever spiritual thing you believe in, whatever religion you are. So we're wishing you all season's greetings. And, the show with Ann Tucker, impactful. Yeah. So Ann, again, was on the show a couple of years ago. And let me see, where's Ann? Where's Ann? There she is. Hello, Ann. She was on the show a couple of years ago, and she blew my mind. So the angels told me many years ago, put more people on the channel Angels, and we want our message to get out there. And I said, yeah, I can do that. And I thought, that'll be easy. Lots of people channel angels. And you know what? It wasn't that easy. I actually didn't find a lot of people that channeled angels. So when I saw Ann, I don't know if she reached out to me or I reached out to her. She might have reached out to me. I can't remember. And she channeled angels. I thought, great. Another person that channeled angels. I'm going to be, good girl and do what the guides have told me and put more people on the channel angels. I thought it'd be lovely messages about love and light and angelic things. And boy, was it not. Because her angels are very predictive, who she calls angels, the consciousness that's streaming through her. She's now identified a few different forms of consciousness. She's given them different names. But they were very predictive, predicting a future that was kind of scary, wasn't it, Vladdy? Do you remember her predictions about the Great Rift, about big devastation, a lot of flooding she talked about? It was a couple of years ago, and 2 weeks after I had her on the show the first time, there was massive flooding in Australia that my daughter was caught up in, lots of flooding. And I'm like, God, she wasn't wrong. She said that they said that there would be flooding all over the planet, not like a Noah's Ark story, but like different places will flood at different times, but there will be a lot of flooding. And boy, was she right. So, yeah, I had her back on the show this year to talk about, love all the show, Merry Christmas. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too, Dolly, to talk about updates. And what was really interesting was that at the time that I had her on the show a couple of years ago, and we spoke about what was to come with all the flooding. So the flooding started happening, even though the flooding was already happening before I spoke to her on the show, it got even more intense. And she was talking about getting yourself, water filters. You can even get a little handheld water filter, just because when flooding happens, the water is all polluted and you need to have water. And she, spoke about a few survival tips. And she was saying that so many people had reached out to her in that couple of years since I had her on the show, saying thank you for the survival tips, because they too had been caught up in a lot of the flooding. But she also spoke about, which many people speak about, the great event, they call it, or the light event, where this big light is going to hit the planet and it will change the consciousness of humanity. Lots of people have been talking about it. Lots of hypnotherapy clients, people who have had hypnotherapy, when they're channeling their higher self, speak about it. She spoke about it. The angels through her spoke about it. Before that light event, she talked about a big earth rift, like a big earthquake, a big massive earthquake that will be felt and seen across the whole planet. Yeah, so lots of sort of disaster she predicted. So here I was thinking we're going to have this angelic conversation about love and light, and it wasn't that at all. It was kind of like, whoa, it was like eye-opening. How did it impact you, Vladdy?
It kind of confirmed some of the stuff that I heard before as well throughout different channels. And most of them said that over the coming years, there will be some catastrophes happening that will reduce the number of humans that live on this planet, but it will be for the greater good, and that we can prepare for it. And nearly all of them told us to basically get the knowledge of how to find the food around your place, like in the forests and woods, and how to prepare and stock food and stuff like that. So it was kind of a confirmation for me, but also not really that much what I expected as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What do we got? About 10 minutes to go left of the show. God, it goes so quickly. I'm not getting through everyone, because there's probably about 40 odd people that I've had on the shows this year. And then I've been doing Elevate with Kristen, and Carol Ann came on. Carol Ann came on for a while, and Laurie Ann Spainer came on. I've had a few people on Elevate as well. But yeah, at the beginning of the year, I was involved in a UFO festival up in far North Queensland. I was going to go up physically and talk to them. I didn't end up going up physically and talk to them. I Zoomed it in. There was a small audience I was talking to. So I was thinking, gee, I'm glad I didn't spend thousands of dollars getting up there and staying in accommodation to speak to a handful of people. Because a lot of people that go to UFO festivals kind of want to talk about lights in the sky and where they kind of went out to where a crash was and look where a sighting was. It's not really my area of conversation. I like to talk about consciousness and what the ETs, how they're teaching us about evolving our consciousness. And not everyone's into that conversation. They want to talk about UFO and sightings and lights in the sky. But I had a lot of the guests, a lot of the speakers on the show from that festival. And Damien Knott, he actually didn't end up going because he got sick. But he is somebody that's had many, many, many UFO sightings. He's kind of terrified by the whole thing. He's not really up to speed consciously and why it's happening to him. It's just happening to him, like the phenomena is happening to him in incredible ways. But it was fascinating to hear his story. And also Roger Stankovic, who is the head of MUFON, I think, down under, Close Encounters. He's a bit more nuts and bolts person too, not so much into consciousness, but getting there, evolving, getting there. It was interesting to speak to these people, find out who they are. And Rowan Bowe, I love Rowan. And Thea was, the organizer of the festival. She was interesting to talk to. She's been putting it on for years, and she's got the council involved and the government involved. They're all up for a UFO festival, which I thought was fantastic. But the Travellers, Rowan had written a book called The Travellers, and she had been up on a ship with some ETs, and that's her story is just fascinating. A couple of Aussies. Had Claudia Edge back on the show. Loved Claudia. Leah Capitelli is another Australian experiencer. Had her on. She's had many human hybrids. She's had many experiences with ETs. She's fascinating as well. And Claudia, pulling back the veil. I've had Claudia on the show before, but I love putting her back on the show. She's got a lot to teach us. But where was I going now? Where was I going? Yeah, Rich Martini. Had him back on the show, Hacking the Afterlife. He is always such a hoot. I just love Rich Martini. He's just fantastic. Sean Clayton was another standout for me. He's just gorgeous. His Instagram, he keeps taking it down and putting it back up again and taking it down. But he's got this incredible Instagram where he makes all these amazing videos on consciousness. We spoke about alchemy and dimensions. He's such a master teacher. I just loved him. And Chris O'Connor, he's one of the super soldiers, the secret space program. He's got an interesting story. Did you love his story? I know you love the space stuff, Laddie. Did you love Chris's story?
I can't remember, unfortunately, but I definitely.
You can't remember? Oh, he's one of those, ET technology and consciousness. So he's done the 20 and back. I think he's done it a couple of times, but he's also into the consciousness as well as the ET technology. So he's got all those memories of being part of the secret space program, which a lot of people debunk. I noticed that a lot of shows that you're interested in, like Area 52 with Chris Ramsey and Jesse, what's Jesse's last name? Jesse Michaels. They've got big podcast shows talking a lot about UFOs, UAPs, ET, disclosure, government cover-ups. Their shows are mostly about that. But I heard them talking one day and they can't come at the secret space program. They think that's a whole lot of bunk. They think it's all crap. And I'm like, yeah, but if you understand consciousness creates, and you understand thought creates, then anything's possible. Like if thought creates, whatever you can think, whatever you can imagine can be a reality, then anything is possible. So why say something's true and something's not true if thought creates, right? When you understand that, you can never really debunk anything saying it's not somebody's reality. What do you think about that, Vladdy?
It's more like about where do you want to put your energy into, like what do you want to create? Or do you want it to be true? And then you basically put more of your energy into it. And I feel like this year, UFOs and ETs were much more in the public than it ever used to be. So the public was prepared more and more for it.
Yeah. This is an interesting.
It is a normal topic then.
This is an interesting question from Nellie on Twitch. How does the Charlie Kirk assassination factor into the UFO theories? Now that's a fascinating question. I would say the assassination of Charlie Kirk, from my perspective of talking to him in the afterlife, because I really didn't tune into him when he was in his physical body. I saw him. You can't help but see him. He's everywhere. But it's not a conversation I was interested in looking at. He was really talking about unity, even though he had his very strong opinions about people. He felt his message was, because he kept saying to me from the afterlife, now that I've been assassinated, it will spread my message bigger and farther than wide than had I stayed in my body and not been assassinated. And I'm like, okay, I get that. I really get that. It'll create a lot of attention to what his message was. And then after that, I'm like, well, exactly what was your message? Like, what was your message? And his message was really to bring conversations together from people that had different opinions, because especially, well, it's all over the world, but especially in America, they're so divided with opinion. Which political party is right and which is wrong, which religion is right and which is wrong, which ideology is right and which is wrong. It's the same all over the world, but it tends to be more publicized, the US politicians, I find, anyway. And he was really saying, even though I have really, really strong beliefs, conservative political strong beliefs, I'm still willing to have a conversation with people who completely disagree with me, who have completely different beliefs, and I'm willing to learn from those people. And that was really his message. So the message for him was to listen to those that you may not agree with And how does that dovetail into the UFO theories? Is that if we're going to connect to a galactic society and different nations and societies that think and live completely differently to us, then we have to learn to have a conversation with people we might disagree with. So that's how it connects. Like, listen to those people that you disagree with. Don't just dismiss them as being wrong. Maybe there's a message there for you that you could learn. Like I say, when I get in my critical mindset, I'll have a critical thought. Nah, I don't want to know about that, and I'll criticize it. And then I'll forget about that critical mindset and I'll ignore her, that one that criticizes, and I'll look into it anyway. Maybe there's something here I need to look into. Don't dismiss it outright as being wrong. That was really such a strong message that Charlie Kirk had. Don't dismiss others because they disagree with you. Like, look into why they believe what they believe. Like I was doing with the Bondi shootings. Like, how can someone have that sort of belief that it's okay to murder people that you disagree with because you're going to get accolades in some heaven? And like, how, like, let me understand that rather than dismissing it as completely wrong. Like, let me understand how that is. Like, come at life through understanding, not through resistance. So yeah, I think that that's how it dovetails with UFO theories, like the UFO, unidentified flying objects, or the ETs. Truly amazing. Thank you. Thanks, Nellie. Yeah, nice to see someone on Twitch listening to the show. I hardly ever get any Twitch people. Yeah, where was I going at that? So what do we got? Oh, we've run out of time, bloody. The show's finished. Oh, my goodness. Thanks for being my co-host today. Season's greetings to you. I hope you have a beautiful Christmas in Europe, in cold Germany, and across the world. I hope everyone has a beautiful Christmas. And remember to go over some of the shows. We had some amazing people on the show. I'll be uploading a few repeats over the next few weeks. But big love to all of you. Merry, 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 unified season. Remember, it's not what happens to you, it's life. It's the choices you make. It's how you meet it. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I think next week I will have a recorded show on. I might even come on live. You never know. Big love to all of you. Got to go. Thanks, Vladdy.
Just everyone.
Bye for now.